Good afternoon, everyone. This is ACDHH's board meeting for June 9th. The time is 4:36, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'll open with roll call, please.
Commissioner Jantz,
Present.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Present.
Commissioner Keast,
Present.
Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Commissioner Scarborough,
Present.
Commissioner Cohen,
Present. Thumbs up.
Commissioner Benton,
Here.
Commissioner Cinco,
Here. Present.
Commissioner Venkatesh,
Here.
staff present, Sherry Collins,
Hello, I'm here.
Victoria Vaughn,
Here. Here.
Betty McIntyre,
Here.
Carlos Castillo,
Here I am. Thank you.
Carmen Green,
Hello, I'm here.
Nikki Sukup,
Hello, hi, here.
and myself, Kyla Dalton Nava. And then we also have present with us Nicholas Bacon,
Hello.
AAG. I think we got everybody.
Great, great. Thank you, Kyla, for roll call. We appreciate that. I'd like to go ahead as a reminder, if your commissioners do not mind turning off your video feed for communication accessibility, that'd be great. And first thing, we're going to get right into the agenda and have review and approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. And we have 3 that we need to have approved, the minutes. So we'll review those and get the approval, the one from February 17th board meeting, as well as March 23rd, the special board meeting. We didn't meet quorum, and the May 19th board meeting, the special board meeting call, also, we didn't meet quorum for that meeting as well. So if someone would like to make a motion that all 3 of those minutes be reviewed and approved, we can move along with our meeting. Any motions? This is Scarborough. We have a commissioner motion to review and approve the 3 board meetings from the past meetings. Can I get a second? This is Commissioner Keast, I second. Commissioner Keast seconds that. Thank you very much. All in favor by show of hands, aye. All right, perfect. The motion carries. Thank you all very much. Okay, now we're going to have the chair report, and we have several comments with that. Unfortunately, please, as a board member, we want to show up and make every effort for this special meeting to happen. So it's some very important information that is outlined on the agenda to keep us moving and going through. So to manage our time wisely, I'm going to ask that we keep account of time and move some things around as outlined on the board meeting's agenda currently. We're going to go down to agenda number 6. We have 1 public comment. That is going to be moved down to number 11 on the agenda. Then agenda item number 11, The office voting will also be placed lastly on the agenda. If time permits that, we'll cover that topic at that point. From there, again, we're going to make sure that we flow along with our agenda and getting through, because we have some important things that require the board's attention, as well as taking votes and action on to keep the agency flowing and moving well. With that said, let's move on. We have a new AG here by the name of Nick, and we appreciate him joining our meeting. Thank you very much, Nick, for being here. If you don't mind, briefly introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you.
Hello, everybody. My name, as you can see, is Nick Bacon. I have been with the Attorney General's office for approximately 6 years. I've been in the health unit, which is the unit that represents this commission. I have been reviewing materials for the commission. I'm excited to be here and look forward to working with everyone on the board, as well as answering any questions that the commission has. Not present tonight. There were at the last meeting was Patricia Lamagna. That's spelled Lamagna, and as well as Sophia Cox. They just weren't able to be here tonight, but just so you're aware, they also were happy to be here as last week, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Nicholas Bacon. We appreciate that. Thank you for joining.
You're welcome.
Okay, and also we'd like to make an announcement. We have a new board member with us as well. Her name is Deborah. Deborah, if you don't mind, turning on your video and introducing yourself to the board at this time.
Hello, I'm Debbie Venkatesh, and I am a clinical audiologist, dispensing audiologist, and I'm happy to be on the board. Looking forward to serving my time.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We appreciate you and welcome to the board. Unfortunately, Dr. Haas, your time is up. So your time is suspended. So you're going to be replacing, we'll be replacing Dr. Hush with Debbie on the board as the clinical audiologist. So we really appreciate you and welcome you again to the board. And also we'd like to mention and give a shout out to Betty. Unfortunately, this is her last official board meeting with us prior to her time ending with the commission. Sad to see you go on and leave, Betty. However, I imagine you're ready to take on the training and the next person. You've trained them well for legislative issues and concerns to meet our needs. Nikki is who will be taking over. Welcome to the board, Nikki. We appreciate you joining the board meeting tonight and look forward to working with you going forward in the future. Nikki, if you don't mind, please turn on your camera and introduce yourself to the community. Hello, hello. Thank you very much, PV. I'm Nikki Soup, sign name like so. It's wonderful to be working with the commission, ACDHH so far, working on some of the campaigns, working under Sherry Collins, learning all the details. I look forward to even more getting to know more of you board members as the journeys come in the days to come. Thank you very much, Nikki. Look forward to working with you as well. Thank you.
All right, so I want to make sure we gave that shout out to Betty. It's really sad to see you leave, but we have had the fortune to work with you all this time, and we look forward to see what your future brings. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So that concludes my commissioner's report. And now I would like to turn it over to Sherry, please. Sherry Collins.
Hello, good evening, Commissioner. I'm just so happy to see all of you here tonight after the fourth attempt of having a board meeting. So thank you. I know some challenging times with scheduling, so I really appreciate your time. And I'm not going to go into the board report because you had it quite a while. And again, I'm open to if you have any questions, but I just want to say a few things on personnel update. As you already know, that Betty McIntyre is, she's moving on to a new chapter of her life, and her last day with it is on Tuesday. So it's been really nice to have Nikki with us on team, working side by side with Betty during the legislative session. So I believe that Betty, done an excellent job transferring all of her information and knowledge and resources to Nikki. So I think we are in a great place. So I want to also recognize and thank Betty for all her hard work with the agency. As you know, that she took the challenge, but it's a brand new position. She was the first person to take that role and build the program with the agency, and she's done a fantastic job in different areas that we have not done in the past. So I'm really I'm grateful that she had been with us, and I want to thank her for all of the hard work she's done. So we'll definitely miss her. So thank you again, Betty. And also at the last board meeting, which I did not announce because we didn't have a quorum, but Emmett Hassan has left to another job opportunity, which we're very excited for him. So his position was vacant after he left. I can't remember, the time has gone by fast. I can't keep track, maybe 2 months ago. But anyway, we reassessed the agency's need and where the best strategy that we want the future of the agency. I am thrilled to tell you that with that, and we already have an inside staff, current staff, who can fill in Emmett's job, and we just feel that it was a good opportunity, to promotion opportunity. So I wanted to congratulate Victoria Fawn with her promotion. She is now going to be filling Emmett's position. Which means that the position that Victoria was on, that position has been modified and is called Communication Access Specialist. We broadened the job description itself. So that position has been posted as of yesterday. So we are advertising to fill that position. We're hoping that person is a licensed certified interpreter, can be a CDI deaf interpreter or a hearing interpreter. We're encouraging applicants to consider applying for that job. So that is coming. Well, actually, it's already posted. So exciting things are happening. Also, as we we had an IT position vacant, and now we've already filled that position. And Ricky Gonzalez, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly, he started this week, Monday. Ricky came from Department of Economic Security, DES, from the IT department. So we are thrilled to have Ricky on team, and he himself is deaf. So we're thrilled to have a new family member with us. So that's the latest of personnel changes. Also, she's going to let you know that at our office will be open to the public to visit us, walk in, starting July the 1st, meaning that staff will be present. However, we will still be working in a hybrid environment. So we're going to see how that works. You know, some of the staff will be working from home and then coming in the office. We're going to have a schedule, but the point is that someone will be at the office starting July the 1st. We will be visiting and, you know, see how often the public come to the office. It's possible down the road, we might close one day of the week, depending on how the frequency of public coming to our office with the gas price has really gone up. So we're trying to see how we can balance with the unexpected gas price for the commute for the staff. At the same time, serve the public. So I will keep you posted, but July the 1st, we will be opening for the public to come to our office. I'm not going to talk about the budget right now with the legislators. Betty will be talking about that. But other than that, in our board report, everything is pretty much there. You know, all the hard work that the staff been doing, and I don't have any other new information to share with you. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, I do have one more. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I have one agenda item. I was planning to talk about it as part of my report, but I decided that I would like to see this topic as an agenda item for a next board meeting on August 18th. I want to talk about a systematic issue with access and Department of Economic Security, DES. Those are with some really huge concern affecting our community, how they serve our community. I think that it is time for us, what I call to action. I want to share some of the concerns with you, and we need to go in public and start saying some of the concern about systematic issues serving our community. So if you are aware of anyone trying to get services through Access or Department of Economic Security, DES, let us know. There's some real concern in some of the different areas or individuals trying to get services. So you'll be looking for an update on that in the August meeting. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sherry Collins. Any of the board members have any questions for Ms. Collins or anything about the annual report? Okay, the annual report requires the board's approval for the agency to be able to proceed and show you that. So if there's any discussion or questions for the annual report, now is the opportunity to do that. We're open to taking questions, and then we'll get it approved for the annual report. All right, anyone? All right. I would like to make a proposal to review and approve the annual report as presented by the executive director. Does anyone motion that, second that? Oh, okay, you already got it. All right, okay. So we have 2 seconds by Commissioner Cohen and Commissioner Senko. Is there any discussion at this time? I don't see anyone raising their hand. If you're in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Anyone, no one in opposition? Okay. So now I would like to talk about the legislative update, please.
Good evening, everyone. Betty McTerry here with the legislative update. We are in like the 150th day of the legislative session. Not really, but that's what it feels like. We are in limbo at the state capitol on a budget. Back in April, a continuation, AKA skinny budget, was proposed in the House. That failed committee, which we anticipated it would. This past week, a budget was shopped around, and that budget proposal also received a hard no from several of the members at the legislature. So at this point, we are nowhere near a budget for this upcoming fiscal year. Rumor has it that we shall expect one in the 11th hour. So that's just a quick update on the budget. I have been in contact with several senior policy staff members at the Capitol as early as today, confirming that our budget asks are still a go. So we should not be fretting losing the FTEs that we asked for back in September in the the governor's executive budget summary. Obviously, nothing is a final until the budget is introduced, but I have very good feelings that we're going to get what we asked for, which I'm excited for. Lastly, on the update for the legislature, there was a bill, SB 1651, what had to do with transferring ownership of data demographic reporting on severe mental illness issues from the Department of Health Services to Access. This is related to the REBAs in our state. 5 years ago, REBAs were transferred from being the oversight from the Department of Health Services to Access. And unfortunately, it took 5 years for folks to realize that Access did not have the authority to report out on some important information related to customers receiving SMI services. When this bill dropped, we immediately found that this was an opportunity to ask for Access to report out on their data and demographic reporting as how many individuals they serve are deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind, as well asking them to report out to the legislature how many individuals who are deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind request ADA accommodations. Of those requests, how many were fulfilled, and any complaints related to ADA accommodations. That request was granted by the sponsor, Senator Bartow, over in the Senate. And we worked with Access on modifying the language as they did not have the capabilities internally at this time to make that happen. So we agreed on an amendment that stated that they will create a methodology and produce a cost analysis to make that amendment a reality. So we have the support of Senator Bartow, as well as Representative Osborne in the House. Both are chairs of the Health and Human Services Committee, and they see the need and actually realization of the oversight that we're not asking about this information from any of the state entities as it relates to how we're serving the deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind communities. So wanted to give a quick update on that. Other than that, it's been a pretty calm session. If there's any questions from the board, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Betty. Any of the board members have any questions for Betty at this time? Any questions for Betty for the board? Again, thank you very much, Betty McIntyre. Really appreciate your report, and we appreciate the detail you put in it. We have big shoes to be filled from what I've heard, Nikki, and Nikki will be able to fill those efficiently. Thank you very much. We appreciate you so much and look forward to your future endeavors wherever it may take you. And next, we'd like to move on with the agenda, the interpreter licensure, please.
Hey, everybody. The Interpreter Licensure Committee has continued to meet through the year. We met in January, March, and then again in May. And the committee reviewed and approved 49 licenses.
That's wonderful, wonderful news. Thank you for sharing, Commissioner Benton. Any questions for Commissioner Benton regarding the Interpreter Licensure Committee update? Hi, this is Commissioner Scarborough. Yes, I'd like to know how many of the licensees the interpreter live in Arizona, that number? That's my question. Give me several minutes to give you a thorough count. Sure, one moment, please. No problem. While Commissioner Benton compiles those numbers and gives us that data, I'd like to put that on hold and we'll revisit that while we have opportunity. We're going to move ahead with the agenda. We're going to take comments related to the youth and family update. So Sherry Collins at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if it's going to be Nikki or Betty. Okay, Betty, thank you.
Okay, so
you're going to do, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. So just this, the youth and family update, there was, I believe, Commissioner requested on what we were planning on doing more related to our family and youth engagement. Sonia Samiango, our family engagement coordinator, and I and Nikki have been drafting up what we have done and what we are planning on doing in this next fiscal year moving forward in conjunction with the strategic plan that the board approved last fall. The biggest thing I want to provide for this is related to outreach, letting individuals in the community and families and entities know that the commission does serve families and youth. There is this misnomer that the commission only serves 18 and over, and which we want to combat that message that the commission is from cradle to grave. So there's an outreach component in what we've been doing. Part of that outreach is not only to working with other entities, audiologists, speech pathologists, newborn screening. We have working relationships with ASDB, libraries, and other youth programming as such. Additionally, the program and our youth engagement is about creating engagement actually with young people who are deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind. And the goal is to create a sense of identity and belonging and contributions to being proud of their identity, and also learning from young people about what it means for them to be deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind. And you know, as things change, and really tapping into the youth of that. Part of that is the desire to and the willing to be creating a youth ambassador program, which we're excited about that. Which that youth ambassador program is part of the strategic plan and developing over the next 2 to 3 years. And also creating a parent connection program, which we do through our what we call Meetup Mondays as part of our community engagement calendar. And that is where we have family engagement webinars where we bring in other parents, we bring in resources, panels, and connect parents with the resources in the community about, various different topics. In addition, and lastly, is that we do a lot of advocacy related to educational services, providing that parent and caretakers connections to who they should be talking to, who can they be working with, and if there's ever a need for advocacy within an IEP program, an IEP meeting. Sonia has been present at those and just supporting parents and connecting them with the appropriate resources and support services that they may need for their child. And then lastly, there's several different things that we've been doing, but obviously we have the SB 1092 task force, which I'm going to ask Nikki to jump on real quick to give a brief mention of that, because that is critical to what we've been doing related to youth and family services for deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind children. So Nikki?
Hello. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. It was a little bright initially. Yes, SB 92. It was an amazing effort with those involved, the different parties, the representatives, the engagement with the agency. We had a lot in the state focusing on 3 criteria.
Symbiotic
connection, as well as demographics. So those 3 areas, looking at that and then delving into each one, I was very amazed at the partnership and commend them for the volunteering their time and effort, because it is a value to us. Over 500 people, deaf 100 babies to adults, following them through age 12, and look forward to actually getting more information and doing a collaborative approach with them and recommendations to coming up with a draft of recommendations to be involved in the community and have more engagement and review with them. And again, we're motivated and looking forward to letting the public know and having community engagement and a relationship with them. And being ready the rough draft should be ready by this coming week, Tuesday. And then on 2 weeks on a Saturday, which will be the 18th, we'll have the forum, a public forum, awareness. We'll look to that, because we'll be advertising about that on our social media and our e-news. We'll continue to communicate with the community that way and share in a collaborative with the community, everything that's going on. And with that forum also, next week, we're going to be receiving a lot of feedback. We want the interest of the community, the thoughts. We want to know, is it working? What do we need to tweak? How can we approach that? And we hope to have a lot of dialogue at that forum, following the forum as well. And we'll be meeting again to review all of the information, the feedback, the information, and then coming up with best determinations going forward, and having a final recommendation to present to the board, and looking at what are the next steps going forward with those recommendations and any gaps that are obtained and what we need to look at. And again, they're from ACDHH taking on that information and putting it out there and a determination and moving forward the next step. So yes, I'm very excited and look forward to doing the collaboration with the efforts to really make the necessary improvements with our youth to improve the lives of youth throughout the state of Arizona, language acquisition, as well as the impact it have on them and their future goals. Yeah, that sums up the last report. So be expecting that draft coming out very soon. Wonderful, wonderful news. Thank you, Betty and Nikki as well. Do we have any questions from the board for either Nikki or Betty at this time? Any questions, board members? All righty, I have a question for both of you ladies. Out of curiosity, what is the strategic plan and how do we plan to network with those students getting into the school, for example, like ASDB or PDSD, Phoenix Day Food for the Deaf, or the co-op programs are out there? What do we have in place to network and engage with those students currently? Betty has said, Nikki is saying currently the network that we have now. Do you mean now, what we have now? PD is asking any opportunities for ACDHH, the commission, to engage and be involved with, say, summer programs or summer camp, for example, or opportunities to do presentations within the school systems to present the students, the commission, what's out there, make the parents aware of outreach that's out there in the community. Do we have anything like that currently now?
You want me to take this? Okay.
Well, I look forward to doing more with ACDHH in the coming future, but yes, I'll let Betty answer that, what's been going on from now up until my taking over.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Nikki. So there's been a couple of different things that we've been doing in the school. So Sonia, our family engagement coordinator, is working. She works with Kendra over at ASDB. She has some contacts also with our ASDB rep here on the board. And so that's one piece where we have those connections within that. I also want to let you know that we've been doing the outreach actually with the Deafline Project. We've been doing that. Julie, our Deafline specialist, is also working to get into the schools with ASDB to talk about SSP services and ACDHH. But one of the things that we're going to be doing over the next 2 to 3 years in accordance to the strategic plan of the agency is creating that exact engagement, planning this out, what partners need to be involved in the table, where are those gaps that we need to be meeting and getting into the schools to talk about ACDHH services. Additionally, I do need to kind of go back. Sonia has been involved. She attends parent meetings monthly, both for monolingual Spanish speaking parents who have children who are deaf, hard of hearing, or deafblind, as well as she attends other parent resource connections as to go with that. We don't, at this time, there's no plan of action for ACDHH to be participating in these summer camps, but we do have actually, Sonia has been working with the libraries and the summer camps, and we just last week pushed out through our social media and e-news all of the summer camps that are accessible in the state for deaf, hard of hearing, and deafblind children. So just right now, we're just starting to plan all of this, and I'm sure when Nikki and Sonia will be implementing that strategic plan and moving forward in all the different arenas and in collaboration with not only ASDB, PSD, Sequoia, and any other opportunities for us to get into the schools and any other opportunities that we can, not only just for the babies, but also the goal is to be looking at for transition to adulthood, and identifying like mentorship programs for those young people who want to go to college or go to a tech school, or so there's future collaborations, I think, there also with other entities for, maybe Voc Rehab or other things that they are all looking into. So I hope that answers your question, President Jantz.
Yes, thank you, Betty. I appreciate the update. And I wanted to double check with the board to see if there are any additional or any questions for Betty or Nikki. I'm not seeing any, so I wanted to thank you both. I appreciate your report. I would like to go back to the previous agenda item regarding the interpreter license. Commissioner Benton, I believe you have an answer. Yes, 11. 11 of the approved licenses are from the state of Arizona. 38 are out of state. Thank you, Commissioner Benton. Any additional questions regarding the licensure or the license committee? Okay, seeing none. I would like to move on with the deaf-blind the statute update, please.
All right, I will make this as quick as possible, but this, so in a previous board meeting, Commissioner Cohen asked for ACDHH staff to look into what it would take to change the name of the commission to include deaf-blind, as well as adding a specific deaf-blind representative. In your board packet, you have a paper laying out the various scenarios and the process it would take for the commission to do both one or both of those asks. The biggest thing I want to explain to this process is that adding the name to changing the name specifically does have a fiscal impact to the agency. So if we were to get through the legislative process, one of the questions that the legislature would ask is what would be the fiscal impact? And we would have to create a fiscal note and anticipate the costs on any changes related to materials, to changing the name. And then there would be a budget ask to allow the agency, if that were to be approved, to actually fund any materials, changes, property, things like that to change the name. Related to the, yes.
Excuse me, where are you in the board documents? Where's this information found? Yeah, and Commissioner Singles, I'm looking for that as well. And Commissioner Scarborough, and I'm not able to find it.
Kyla, can you help? This, where it would be at?
What are you looking for, Betty?
I was looking for Kyla.
I'm here, Betty.
Okay.
What is the question? What is it that you're looking for?
They're looking for the report they provided related to the deafblind.
Let me take a
Submitted.
look. Was that submitted back in February?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to look into that and just give me just a few minutes and you should see it pop up for you guys, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you both for bringing that to our attention. Clearly, it's not presented on the website. If you wouldn't mind a brief recap, we could do that of the top 2 or 3 situational concerns we have while we wait for the information public again.
Betty,
It would help if I was not unmuted. Quick recap. So there's 4 things to consider about changing the name and or adding a representative specifically for deafblind. Number 1, the current statute currently caps the number of board representatives that are allowed. So if we were to increase the board representation to add a deafblind specific representative, we would need to have to engage the governor's office first. The governor's boards and commissions determines the authority of us adding any more board members. If we were to change one of the deaf representatives to a deafblind specific representative, that also would require the engagement and permission from the governor's office before we could even seek a legislative proposal for that. If the governor's office would grant that, we would need to go through the full legislative process, just as we did for 1092 to add the language acquisition to our statutes. Now, one of the things that I did put in the report is the political component of requesting a change to a board and commission. Currently, at this time, the political climate needs to be considered. The political climate is not friendly to adding to government boards and commissions. And in fact, our current political climate is about limiting limiting commission duties and responsibilities. In fact, there are lots of discussions on the 9th floor about consolidating boards and commissions. So I just bring that to the boards for you guys to be aware of, that when we seek any kind of changes in this regard, there's nothing that could stop them from wanting to lump the Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing with another commission or board. As a big red flag for them. So, and then also I mentioned the fiscal impact to the agency relating changing the name for that, that it would require what's called a fiscal note in the legislative bill. And any fiscal note, we would also anticipate having a secondary budget ask that would require us to increase our spending. So that would be a big hurdle to overcome as well. But it does not mean that it can't happen. It's just one of the things that we all have to be mindful of. Additionally, I did some research of other commissions. And at this point, we only have 3 state commissions that actually include deafblind in the agency name of the 36 that have, of the 36 states that have commissions. And only, and so, yes, so with that, that is the proposal that I put together based off of Commissioner Cohen's request. And so with that, if there's any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that information with us. I think it's very beneficial for everyone to see the process, not only how complicated it is, but there's also political potential issues as well, not as well as financial or budget issues to making that change. I get the sense that right now, I don't think it's what we're saying. I think right now what we're saying is maybe we need to wait. And maybe I think this is something that we as a board that we should keep in the back of our mind and maybe see what happens with the next legislative session next year, and see what happens within the governor's office. This is an election year, so it's potential that we could see a lot of changes, which would mean maybe more advantages for us in the future. And at that time, we could see what options are available to us. I think it's important that, and wise, to document that we want to revisit this issue after the political environment, after the political climate changes, to see if it would be a better match for us to go ahead and look into that and put more effort into that. I do think it's important to at least have one deafblind representative. I definitely think that's necessary. Commissioner Scarborough. My question pertains to the budgetary impact. I'm wondering, we currently have staff, deaf-blind specialist, and that we wouldn't have an impact on the budget necessarily because we already have that. So what exactly are we talking about when we say budgetary impact? Could someone expand on that to give us an idea what that would look like? This is Commissioner Jantz. I'm happy to answer that. I'll allow Betty obviously to add into anything I might miss. You know, if you look at the budget, there are certain line items for marketing, materials, office supplies. It breaks down every single item, and there's a label or a logo for each one. So if we change the name of the commission, that means all of those items would have to be changed as well. That's just the immediate impact, financial impact. There are other underlying financial impacts as well that could potentially call attention to the commission. The legislature might say, well, wait a minute. It would spotlight, and maybe it would make them more aware of the money we're spending, and then could potentially eliminate things that we have and make it more difficult to get approval on some of our budgetary requests. So it is a political risk. If we have to ask ourselves, should we move forward with this at this time? Or would it be just a one-time, change in marketing? It's not going to be just an impact in that area. So I would be afraid that it would call attention to the board and the commission itself. Well, for what seems something simple. For deafblind services, that is already in the budget. It is there, it's assigned. However, changing the board itself, having one representative would also require a legislative change. So if we go ahead with that type of change, again, it could call attention and spotlight our commission, and then possibly have impacts with the budget and other future budgetary requests and other issues in that area. Maybe Betty, you could add some more.
Yeah, that was a perfect summary. I did forget to mention one critical thing in the report is that we can continue to, the board can continue to do what it's doing right now, which is utilizing one of the deaf representatives with that number for a deaf-blind board member. So exactly what we're doing right now with Commissioner Cohen. So because you have timeline-wise, the election is in November, you have to have a bill and a sponsor by December, ready to go for January if this kind of change. So from a timeline perspective, I would just want to put that in there. It's not a lot of time because you are transition of powers and you don't know who your governor is going to be starting in January 2023. So I just want to put that out there, but also remember the board can continue to do what it's doing right now is to utilize one of the positions we have right now for the deaf-blind representative as we currently have, without making any change to legislatively.
This is Commissioner Jantz. Thank you for adding that. And Commissioner Scarborough, I believe you have another question.
Yes, I did. So would it be possible to have a separate process? Like, for example, right now we're talking about doing everything together. So we're talking about the agency changes, the name, changing the name, plus changing the board structure. And that is a lot of change. I mean, it really is. And of course, it will cause potential concerns and, like you mentioned, spotlight or attention on the commission. Okay, that makes sense. However, if we just focus on the representation, like right now, and then later, we can talk about our representation not matching our name. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could discuss that problem later. And right now, we could just focus on the representation, not, you know, appropriately matching the community. I mean, does that make sense? Like, the commission is not for audiologists, but we have an audiologist position, right? So I'm just throwing that out there. Betty, did you want to comment on that?
I just want to clarify, what was that, a question or a comment? Because if it's a question, I was confused.
Can we do one change?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so focus on the board representation only.
You can choose to take this at two separate times. You can choose to move forward with a deaf representative at one time, and then in the future do a name change. I do want to let you know, though, I'm going to reiterate, your timing of this is going to be, this is an election year, so it's going to be a tight time frame if you wanted to get the buy-in from a newly elected governor and get a sponsor, because it still needs to happen legislatively. So if that's something you want to do, it may be more feasible to do it in 2024's legislative session. Just something to think about, because then that allows you to get the buy-in, have the stakeholders with the new governor, and then get the sponsor.
Thank you. Thank you, Betty. And Commissioner Cohen? Thank you, Betty. I appreciate this discussion. And I really appreciate all the points that you laid out for us. A lot of things that we need to accomplish before this happens. So the deafblind representative, changing the agency name, there's a lot to it. It's really not that simple. Thank you for sharing that. So I have a question and I have a comment. My question is to Betty. Is it possible to kind of assume how much, kind of predict how much money is needed? Like, for example, how much money it would cost to change the name of the agency? You know, all of that put together. And then how much money it would cost to change or add a deafblind representative. Like, then we could compare the cost of those two different steps. You know, and then we could work the budget out from there. That's my one question. If that's possible, I'm not sure.
So, Commissioner Cohen, yes, we can definitely figure out from an agency perspective what the potential estimated cost would be to change the name. That's something we could, you know, do from a fiscal perspective. There wouldn't be no cost to changing, there'd be no financial impact to the commission that I can foresee for adding a deafblind representative to our statute. So just to be clear, the fiscal impact would be on changing the name, whereas the potential impact would not be on adding deafblind representatives. Sherry?
I want to stick with Commissioner Cohen's question, the official impact. If add a new representative on the board does have official impact because of travel. That's additional expense. So I just wanted to add that note, but yeah, we could figure out what that cost is, whichever, in the future, because we would have to be prepared to include that information one way or the other. I just wanted to add that comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry Collins. And then Commissioner Cohen, I believe you wanted to make a comment now. Yes, thank you for answering that question. If it's possible to just kind of collect that data for the cost or the physical impact, just looking at the future, kind of looking into the future. Okay, so for my comment or my statement, I agree with PV. I'm thinking about like today and now, the economy, the political environment, the news. There's a lot going on. Yeah, obviously. There's a lot of attention going many different places. So I agree that we could proceed and then things could really get messed up, and so maybe it's best not to do that. It might be wise to just hold off. And then maybe the next election term, look into it. At the same time, I do like what Kyla had mentioned about the system kind of breaking things down and making it into smaller parts, and maybe that would be more successful from that perspective. But right now, looking at everything with the commission, I'm very supportive. They're very supportive of the community and deafblind services, and I have confidence that they will keep it in mind for the future and keep it as a goal, and they will figure out the right time to proceed. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the United States and globally. So that's just my opinion. Thank you for listening. I'm going to be quiet now. Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. We do appreciate you sharing your comment. This is only a discussion as a reminder. So there's no action being taken. However, we do want to be thinking about all of this and figuring out the best approach if we do or do not proceed with a formal process and a legislative change, and thinking about what our options are. And potentially Nikki Soka might be doing some research with Betty, and maybe then the board could consider that in the future. We could show our support for deafblind through a deafblind representative, and we could make a resolution. And a resolution is not something forced. However, it would be an opportunity for the board to show their support to the deafblind community. And if that becomes an option, maybe we could then discuss something for the future, a future date. And Nikki and Betty, I'm sure you will look into what those options are in depth and what the potentials for maybe a rough draft for a resolution, and what the consequences would be for each option, and what the benefits would be as well.
Absolutely. There are many ways that we can, address different strategy. One, we need to engage the deaf-blind combined vision hearing loss community. They need to get them more engaged with the process, get more exposure, especially when we're considering more replication. And I think that's important. That part of that process we have been doing over the years. For example, we finally got the SSP money. Then we have the position, deaf-blind specialist. So we're building, and then recently legislation, part of our sunset review, we added the deaf-blind definition in the statute. So we're adding. So what Commissioner Cohen said is exactly what we've been doing over the years, is build recognition. So there's more work to do, but we're on track. So I agree.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Collins. We appreciate your comment as well. Nikki and Betty, you've done a lot of investigation and research on this, and maybe you could make a resolution rough draft. And with the pros and the cons, we could bring it to the board and we could review that. Hello. Yes. Researching the budget and all those type of things you mentioned, would you like a draft for the resolution? I'm thinking, what exactly do you envision for that? Mainly what I would like to see is kind of a list, and then maybe some suggestions on how the board would be able to discuss that resolution if it becomes something that seems to be something we're able to support. And if nothing else, we could show the public that we are supportive of that role, and maybe it's not formal recognition or formal role, but we show them that we do find it important to people with hearing loss and a vision loss.
I will work with my team.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Sherry Collins. Thank you. We really appreciate it. So are there any additional questions related to the deafblind legislative change? All right. I don't see anyone raising their hand, so I would like to move on and discuss future meetings. We need to talk about making a decision to continue the meeting virtually, or are we going to go ahead and go back to meeting in person with a remote access option? So this is something we as a board need to discuss and make a determination, and it's important because our next board meeting is in August, specifically August 18th. And that means that after the commission is open to the public, it means that we need to make sure that we're accessible to the public. So are there any thoughts or questions or comments related to future board meetings? Okay, Commissioner Keist, yes, hello. Hi, thank you. This is Commissioner Keist. I want to propose that we get together in person on August 18th. Okay, we have a motion. Does anyone second that motion? Okay, so at this time, I don't see a second. So I would like to take a second motion so that we can consider the possibility of getting together and talking about meeting in person. But my only concern is people that maybe live a distance, live far away. They have a volunteer role, and then there's the cost of gas, which is astronomical, and the commission maybe could possibly make an amendment, and we as a board could meet in person with the remote option. We could offer that, and then if they need to take advantage of that, they could. Okay, Sherry, you wanted to make a comment, please.
I have a question. Now time for discussion. I've already passed the motion. I missed. Oh, I'll wait until
We have not.
discussion.
We're discussing it now. We're discussing it right now.
Okay, just remember when we meet in person, and then for those who want to join, will be by phone. We can't do Zoom plus in person at the same time. The technology with the caption interpreters, we can't do Zoom for those who want to join remotely and in person. So if we meet in person, it would go back to the old phone system approach. Meeting, if deaf, use VRS. because of the technology, we can't integrate our system in our room with the cameras for live. Because we can do live in our boardroom, but that's not through Zoom. So no matter what, if we meet in person, it's going to be a different setup, meaning people will be watching live through our boardroom, just for clarification for technology part.
Thank you for that clarification, Sherry Collins. And for those of you all who have not experienced our in-person board meetings, there's a boardroom at the commission. It's a rectangular room. We have interpreters stationed throughout the room, and we even have a public audience where they can come in and attend and watch the proceedings. And the live streaming camera that's set there with interpreters who are presented to the board meeting. Now, with remote, we would have to have our commissioners call in either on the phone or using video relay services so they could participate and see what's going on in the meeting. Now, if you prefer in-person meetings, please keep in mind that that would probably have an impact and pose a challenge, especially for the deaf, conventionally blind, hearing loss, using remote services. We can continue to work at that, but it will present some challenges that have not been resolved at this current moment. After COVID, maybe the option will come up, where it will present a smoother transition. We haven't had that yet. We're learning a lot with Zoom and the technology in sake of time and how to have everything work out efficiently and be prepared for future board meetings. So I recommend you, Commissioner Cohen, keep that in mind. The motion is on the table. We're looking for a second after we're done with the discussion. We're talking about meeting in person for our next meeting, which will be August 18th, with the option of offering remote for commissioners who can't show up in person. Commissioner Cohen? I have a question. The person on the phone coming in, coming off, that would present a problem. So how are we going to provide that accommodation? That's an excellent question, Commissioner Cohen. While I've experienced person who uses their voice and asks questions and speaking on the phone and having the interpreters be able to understand them and they're document everything for recommendation and being noticed at the meetings, it is a little awkward, I will admit. That means that we'd have to come up with a creative new thing to resolve and approach that later. For me, I'd like to see how that would work out. It would be cool, to have that set up, working with today's technology and timing of the meeting. Maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't work. Again, something we look into. Any further discussion? Concerns from the commissioners, proposals? If there is no additional discussion or concerns about the meeting in person, let's move to a vote. All those in favor of meeting in person at our next board meeting scheduled for August 18th with the option of remotely zooming in, please, by show of hands. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed by show of hands? We have one opposed. The motion carries. Well, I'd like to thank you all for having that open to discussion. Our next meeting scheduled for August 18th will be in person with the option to call in to attend the commissioner meeting. And I'll work with Sherry Collins as well as the IT person to figure out the logistics and how we can get all this worked out so we can be there in attendance. since it'll be our first in-person meeting, in over 2 years. Commissioner Cohen has a question. Commissioner Cohen? Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Going forward for future meetings, how are we going to do those? I know we're talking about our next meeting, but what will be the procedure going forward? We haven't had an opportunity to discuss further meetings. We only have the motion passed right now for the August 18th meeting. There was no other comments about any further meetings. We can either put it on the agenda to be discussed at our next meeting and come with a conclusive decision then, or we can move forward and make the decision now. Commissioner Keys? I'd like to discuss looking further to what Commissioner Cohen said. I think it's best that we wait, have the August 18th meeting, see how everything works out with the logistics and tying in with the remote commissioners using video relay service, see how that works first, and then make a decision on what to expect going forward for our future board meetings, because we'll have a better solution, better options in place. Any further discussions or questions about that? Commissioner O'Rourke, you have something you want to add to that? Were you raising your hand? No, okay.
No.
Commissioner Williams, you had something you wanted to add to that? No, okay, all right. Good, I just wanted to make sure I acknowledged everyone when they came on. All right. Any further discussions on this topic or future board meetings? Keep in mind, right now, we only have it set up in person for August 18th. Going forward, we're still open to discussing, and we have not made a decision going forward about future board meetings after that one. Okay. So my sense, it seems as a board right now, we want to do the in-person for August 18th with the remote option, and then look at future meetings being open, and we'll leave those up for discussion at the August 18th meeting and decide at that point how we're going to proceed and get that on the agenda for the next board meeting. And we'll cover that topic at that point. Okay, with that being said, I want to double check in with the Attorney General. Are you still on with us now?
Yes, I am.
Great, thank you for being here with us. Now, I would like to move on to proceed with the interpreter complaints and questions. Oh, no, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I made an agenda set. I moved something ahead on the agenda. First, before we proceed with that, I want to start with public comments. I do believe we have one person who's making a comment. Commissioner Benton, would you read the initial complaint, and then we'll proceed with the comments if the person is available at this time.
Absolutely. The board is responsible for establishing time limits for public participation. Unless modified by the board at a particular meeting, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes on all topics. Personal attacks on board members, staff, or other persons in attendance or absent are discouraged. Individuals are cautioned that statements concerning others that could be considered slanderous may subject the speaker to civil action. Those who violate this rule can be barred from future appearances before the board. This applies to both public hearings and board meetings. Your cooperation is appreciated.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Benton. We have one public comment at this time. The comments are limited to 3 minutes, and Commissioner Benton, as our secretary, will be monitoring that time limit. Commissioner Benton, when you're ready to proceed, let us know, and We will recognize Helen Young. Commissioner Benton, we're set and ready. Great, we're ready. Helen, at this point, would you go on with your comments, please?
Is it my turn?
Yes, yes, please proceed. Yes.
Okay. I am very concerned about the situation that I'm in right now with this complaint that was filed against me. And it's mainly her word against mine that this happened. And I have no recourse, I feel, and I feel like there was no due process. I didn't get to discuss this with the committee. It's just handed down, this is what you get. And Ms. Wasisco is the one who filed this complaint against me. And she and I have been working for separate, the same agencies, and she has gone to these agencies, I found out, and told them that I should not be called anymore, that she said a complaint, she didn't say her complaint, she said a complaint was filed against me, and now I've been fined $1,000. So it must mean that it's something serious. And she has called other agencies and said the same thing to them, and they are no longer calling me for work. I called a Corby. I talked to a person that works there, Sandra Baker, and she is the one who told me about what Ms. Wasisco has done, which upsets me greatly, of course. And on the committee that discussed what my punishment should be, I feel like it was really wrong. It was a conflict of interest for Sherry Collins to be involved because I was involved in a lawsuit, I think everybody knows that, with the state of Arizona and Sherry Collins. And also, I don't think that it's a good idea for Jennifer Scarborough to be sitting on this committee because she's best friends with Julianne Wasisco's daughter, who is also an interpreter. Julianne, Julianne has had complaints filed against her and nothing became of it. Brenda Tress is one of them that filed against her for what she had done to her. She had called a Corby and told them not to use Brenda, that the deaf person that we were doing ongoing did not like her. And that was totally untrue.
That's time. It's time.
Well, I feel like I need some time to do this. 3 minutes is just not long enough.
Thank you.
To state the facts. And I feel like I am not getting any due process of the situation. I tried
Okay,
to hire,
thank you. We
I tried
appreciate
to
your
hire a
comments, Ms.
lawyer
Hong.
and then we didn't
Unfortunately,
talk about it.
it's limited to 3 minutes at this time. We have to be fair with everyone that's involved in the meeting. That 3 minutes, it seems as a standard practice that's been established. If there are any other public comments that need to be made at this time? All right, seeing no other comments from the public at this time, I would like to now move on with the agenda. We have another interpreter complaint.
We actually have 2 interpreter complaints. The first one I would like to discuss is Cecilia Pennick. The second one is Helen Young. And I would like Victoria to please go ahead and recap and provide an explanation.
Sure, I can do that. So the first one, just gonna clarify the name, is Kayla, C-A-Y-L-A, Pennick. I-C-K, perfect. So the summary is Ms. Alexandria Brewington, an unlicensed educational interpreter, filed a complaint against Ms. Kayla Pennick, a general licensed interpreter, for unprofessional conduct, interaction with students at Arizona School for the Deaf and the Blind campus. And so the analysis for this particular complaint is information in the complaint form that was filled out for both parties with their responses to the investigator's questions does not sufficiently substantiate the allegations alleged by the complainant. This case is based on two persons' statements against one another without any witnesses, aside from the students, or evidence of these allegations. In other words, this is a she said situation. Furthermore, the commission does not have any jurisdiction over educational interpreters per ARS 361971. They are exempt from licensure while interpreting for students in classrooms. In this case, Ms. Pennick stated that she was in the capacity of a transition specialist / educational interpreter. And she served as a licensed interpreter on an hourly as needed basis. This situation did occur in a classroom setting. However, the investigator did not confirm if it occurred during teaching time or a break or after class started. And in conclusion, under the analysis portion, we found that, again, that there was no proof of signed verbal conversations that took place between both parties. The investigator chose not to interview students involved due to underage and parent consent to investigate the matter, which may delay the complaint or result in unfounded merits of this complaint. Please note that this situation seems to be handled by ASDB administration internally, which falls under their jurisdiction and not the commission's jurisdiction in this case.
Thank you. Again, yes, this is regarding Kayla Pennick. This is an action item. Do any of the board members have questions pertaining to Victoria's summary? Is there any further discussion? Any motion? Commissioner Keist. And then we have Commissioner Benton as well. Commissioner Keist. I'm a little bit confused as to the individuals. I will admit that I did not read the complaint in the paperwork. So based on what was presented here, one individual not licensed interpreter complained against someone who is a licensed interpreter. That doesn't make sense. Does it? That I think we would need further investigation. If we have a non-licensed interpreter, how did they get that job? How did they work in that position in the first place? That's just my big concern. And then dealing with underage students, as an educational interpreter in the educational environment, I feel like this requires a very significant, severe investigation. This is Commissioner Jant. I'd like to take the opportunity to respond. I completely understand the concern raised by Commissioner Keist. We as a board do not require people who file the complaint to be a licensed interpreter themselves. If we require that, then that would mean deaf individuals, deaf community members as public could not file complaints against interpreters. So we have the responsibility, and Commissioner Keese is saying that's a good point. Commissioner Jensen, we have the responsibility to allow anyone to have equal access to file a complaint. And then once the investigation begins, then there's due process involved. The board bases our decision on what the investigation recommends after the review. And then we have the decision to either follow that recommendation, or we can decide and come up with our own conclusion. Or we can also have a further conversation. So actually there are three options. If the board decides to implement some type of disciplinary action, then there would be a separate procedure where we would get other people involved at that point. And then those individuals have a greater ability to do a more in-depth investigation if necessary. The board also has the opportunity to say, no, the information is not substantiated and we need to investigate. And then we can request them to do a further investigation. Pertaining this specific situation, as what Victoria is recommending, and as she stated, there's not enough evidence to substantiate it, this current complaint based on what we have presented to us now. And because there are different factors, that's where the conclusion is coming from. That doesn't mean we have to follow that recommendation, but it is something we need to consider. We need to remember the situation in totality. And remember that anyone can file a complaint if they feel that they see some type of violation. And we want to maintain and allow that opportunity for the complaint to then be investigated by the board and the commission. So Victoria, did you want to add anything?
No, you covered it really well. So just to reiterate that the situation was handled internally by ASDB. So even though we, the investigator suggested that we close it on our end, ASDB did take some steps on their end. So just wanted to add that additional point.
Thank you. I believe Commissioner Benton wanted to add a comment. Yes, I wanted to add another important part. We do not have the responsibility or the purview to be involved with educational interpreters because they are not licensed. So unfortunately, that's not under our area of management authority. Thank you, Commissioner Benton. That was an excellent point as well. That is another factor that we had to consider as well. Commissioner Keese. I just wanted to say thank you for the clarification. The bottom line here is, if the complaint itself is not clear and is muddled, if it's not clear to the board, then therefore it needs further investigation. But apparently ASDB took care of it, then that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments or concerns about this specific complaint? And remember, this item requires action, so we do need a motion to do something regarding the complaint. Commissioner Benton. I make a motion that we would accept the staff's recommendation. Commissioner Jansen, would you mind stating exactly what the recommendation was? This is Commissioner Benton. The recommendation is to have no further action. It's dismissed. Okay, this is Commissioner Jantz. We do have a motion from Commissioner Jantz to go ahead and dismiss, and that was recommended by the staff. And we have Commissioner Keese who has seconded that motion. Are there any additional comments needed to be made before we vote? Seeing no comments or concerns, I would like to go ahead and begin with the vote and roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioner Jantz. Commissioner O'Rourke.
Yes.
Commissioner Venkatesh. Commissioner Benton. Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Scarborough.
Abstain.
Commissioner Cinco. And Commissioner Keast.
Yes.
Commissioner Brimhall. Sorry, there's one more.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kyler. I appreciate that. The motion has carried. The complaint will be dismissed. Now I would like to move on to the next complaint for Helen Young. Before we dive into that agenda item, I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and go into a closed session. Is there a second? Commissioner Cinco seconds. Okay, we have the second, and this is, so as we work on this, we will move into a closed section. We'll take a 10-minute break for the interpreters to use the restroom, so forth. Before we leave, Sherry Collins.
Mr. Chair, for technical clarification, when you make a motion, go to an executive session, you need to be very specific of what agenda item and what for, please. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies. I thought that was clear and specific enough. The reason why I'm making a motion to go into the executive session to get legal counsel regarding the Helen Young complaint. And we do have a second from Commissioner Sanko. All in favor? Any opposed? I see no opposed. The motion carries. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Please be back at exactly 6:23 for the executive session while we work on the technology of getting everyone moved over. Thank you, Betty. Okay, Carla, would you mind setting up the notifications so that we can go ahead and move into the executive session, please? Okay, we need to make sure we have all the correct people to be transferred into the closed session. We need the CART reporter. We need the ASL interpreters. We need the Attorney General, all of the commissioners. Who else? We also need Victoria, We need Carmen Green, Sherry Collins. Those are the other people we need to address and have moved over as well.
Phoebe, this is Kyla.
And if you
I
haven't-
will get them into those rooms.
Okay, thank you so much. And for those of you who've gotten the invite, please go ahead and join now. Go ahead, Kyla. Make sure the board members are also aware that when they come back, that they need to click on join so that they join the room.
All right. We want to make sure Cart is set up. Cart, are you all set? Live stream, is that ready? Are we
Maybe
go?
just to let you know, this is Kyla. Live streaming is still going and CART is still running, so we should be good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kyla, so much. We're now finished with executive session at 7:17. And right now, our topic is about the interpreter complaint regarding Helen Young. And that particular complaint required action or a proposal, a motion to proceed. And I have been thinking, are there any comments before I make a motion? Okay, Commissioner Benton, please. I want to clarify I need clarification from the staff about when did Miss Young make the offer to agree on the settlement? Thank you.
Ms. Young and I spoke on May 12th of this year on the phone, and she verbally agreed that she would like to pay, or excuse me, verbally requested that she'd like to pay the penalties coming to an amount of $1,100, and also to complete the 5 hours of training related to ethics.
Thank you. Any other commission? Okay, Scarborough, please. Did she mention when? Back in May?
No, she requested to do it as soon as possible. So no specific time frame, but as soon as possible was mentioned.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Victoria Vaughn. Any other questions or comments before I make my motion? Go ahead, Commissioner Scarborough. I wanted to clarify, when is this due? Victoria Vaughn, please.
Do you mean when was it due, when it was first voted on before? That's what
Yes, voted on in January, and then agreement in May. And then when is it due?
I'm confused because I think that's what you guys are voting on tonight, is when this will be due.
Well, I was just asking, when was that due?
Okay, so let me look at the notes here. So the civil penalties totaling $1,100, excuse me, the fines totaling $1,100. We requested that those be paid by January 1st, 2022. And then the 5 hours of ethics training, we requested that those be submitted by March 31st of 2022.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, Commissioner Keast, go ahead. This is not a question. However, I do support your plan. The penalty, the punishment, giving 30 days. I think we should proceed. So what I want to mention at this point, and I propose, we would like for the board to provide the staff permission to extend this deadline for the settlement and enter into a settlement for $1,000 for the one complaint and $100 for the second complaint. And that settlement must be entered, signed within 30 days from June 10th of 2022. Okay, I need it. Okay, yep. We have Commissioner Cinco and Commissioner Keast. They have a question. Yes. The wording is good. Staff, that seems too general. Who is the staff? Are you talking about the whole department? Or who are we talking about specifically? Typically, it's the executive director's team. That's their policy and that's their procedure. Cool. Just want to make sure. Thanks. Okay, so I wanted to make a comment. Oh, sure. Go ahead. It's open for discussion. Absolutely. Go ahead. So what I'm hearing tonight and what has been going on since February surrounding this particular situation, it really disappoints me as a deaf person because we build a relationship with our interpreters of trust. We trust our interpreters, and this kind of action should never have happened. And this kind of behavior is really erodes our trust between someone who is deaf and a sign language interpreter. So hopefully the community can learn from this. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Cinco. And we have a motion. Do we have a second or any additional discussion or questions? Okay, Commissioner Benton. Okay, we already have a second. Thank you, Commissioner Benton. And if there's no other additional discussion or questions, I would like to go ahead and call vote. Do roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Jantz. Commissioner Benton. Commissioner Keast. Commissioner O'Rourke.
In support.
Commissioner Williams.
I support.
Commissioner Cinco.
I support.
Commissioner Venkatesh.
I support.
Commissioner Scarborough.
I support it.
Commissioner Cohen.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Can the interpret? Can Cohen
Abstain.
sign that again?
I abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. Thank you. I abstain. Cohen said I abstain. Thank you.
Okay. And then Commissioner Brimhall.
I support it.
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Kyla, for helping us pass that. Pass the motion. And all right. I would like to move on to discussion for future agenda items. And I have 3 things that I would like to put down for future agenda on August 18th. The first one being, I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to discuss concerns related to the system and the challenges I want to put that down on the agenda. And
The
then
DES and access systems.
thank you. The other item that I want to add for the agenda is a possible discussion, maybe voting related to a resolution for supporting deaf-blind representative on the board. And then the third thing that I would like to put on the agenda has to do with the discussion related to a special board meeting from ASDB recently on May 25th. My role as representative on that board, I'd like to explain that and discuss the possible actions. Are there any other future agenda items that the board would like to see added to the agenda for August 18th? Okay, Commissioner Scarborough. No, I support those three things. I support them. Okay, great. Commissioner Keist? Yes, I wanted to add one more thing, but how much time do you give us? I mean, I don't know. Oh yeah, how many hours do you want this meeting to go on? No, I promise I won't. I won't go over an hour, just 5 minutes. I'm thinking there's something important, so. Okay, if you think of something and it comes up later, you can always contact me and let me know what you'd like to add to the agenda. Of course, you're able to do that in the future. Just make sure that you do it 48 hours before the actual meeting, because we have to give the public notice of what is on the agenda, and that's a minimum of 48-hour notice to the public before we actually conduct the meeting. So make sure you contact me 40 hours before August 18th. Oh, sure, I can do that. Thank you. All right, are there any other topics that want to be added to the agenda? I'm still thinking. All right. So if there's no others, I think we're ready to move on. We have the final agenda items, then the officer election, and that has been postponed and postponed and postponed. So I want to make sure that we all have a fair opportunity to discuss this topic. Typically, the officer of election happens annually in November, annually. So we can either go ahead and move forward with the motion for the officer elections and the proceedings, and then re-vote again in November. Or the other option is we can continue with our current officers, put a hold on the vote until November. And then we can go ahead and start the annual cycle all over again in November. Please keep in mind that this has been postponed due to COVID, due to virtual meetings, due to time running out during our meetings due to not having quorum. So all these reasons are why we have had to postpone. So before we go into that discussion, please, I want to say thank you to Mr. Bacon, our AG. We appreciate your services and have a wonderful night.
Okay, now related to the officers and the voting on the board, it's open for discussion. At this point, what would you like to see happen going forward? This is Commissioner Keys. I need clarification. You're saying office like all of us or all of us on the board that are here, right? All the positions are up? Thank you for asking for clarification. That's a good question. We currently have 3 positions for office on the board. The chair, vice chair, and secretary. The current chair is me. The vice chair is Commissioner Cinco, Katie. And the secretary is Commissioner Benton. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. So all 3 of those are up. So we're voting for all three we'd like to know about. The only positions we have right now to fill, but please keep in mind, if for some reason a board person wanted to move on and have a formal new election, we need to have that in motion, the nominee, the person at the beginning of, and it would begin the election process, and then the board could decide to hold and wait until November, again, at the next board meeting in August 18th. And then after that, we would proceed in November again with the second board meeting where we do the board chairs and names. So keep in mind your time and how you want to proceed. Commissioner Keys has a question. Can I make a motion? Yes, you may, sure. Okay, I'd like to motion to keep all three of the officers that we have currently, that we continue for another year. And the reason why is because COVID, all these things came into play. It would help if we stayed in the current offices that we have and not add additional board members. So again, the motion is to keep the current board officers that we have in all three positions for another year, period. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any second? Fred? We have Commissioner Williams, Fred Williams, second the motion. Any discussion? PV, my only concern is that November is typically an annual election year. So my suggestion would be, if you want to vote to keep the current officers and commissioners that we have now, that will give you all an opportunity to have new members and take a new vote for the office of positions, or have the determination to continue with the officers as is from November going forward. This motion has already had a second, which means it will require a friendly amendment or withdrawal. This is Commissioner Keys. Go ahead, Commissioner Keys. I withdraw my motion then at that time. I like to withdraw the motion. Okay, Commissioner Keys have withdrawn her motion. Would you like to withdraw the second, Commissioner Williams?
I was going to add that I like the idea if the current officers are willing to serve, but I'm open. I can withdraw the second and we can go from there.
Okay, you made a great point, Commissioner Williams, and I appreciate you bringing that up as well. Thank you for taking that into consideration. That we continue, Commissioner Benton and Cinco and myself. Now, your feedback will be valuable at this time. Commissioner Cinco, Commissioner, are you willing to continue and wait until November where we take a formal vote on fulfilling the office for another year? This is Commissioner Cinco. I think, yeah, let's wait till November for a formal vote. Commissioner Benton, I agree with that. Commissioner Keys? Then I'd like to make a motion to keep the current, I want to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you. We still have your original motion. We're waiting for Commissioner Benton's clarification to accept the withdrawal. Commissioner Williams, I'm sorry, do you accept Commissioner Williams' withdrawal of your promotion? Yeah, Commissioner Benton said, yeah, that's fine. This is Fred, who are we waiting? Commissioner Williams. We're waiting on Commissioner Williams to accept the withdrawal. Interrupt this clarification.
I'm sorry for the delay. I was waiting. I can't keep up with the voice speech. I was waiting for the captions. I didn't mean to hold you up.
No problem.
Can you restate the question, please?
Yes, the question is, do you, Commissioner Williams, well, back up, Commissioner Keys withdrew her motion to continue with the current board. Do you also withdraw your motion, seconding her motion?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you, Commissioner Williams. So now we have no motion on the floor. Is there any new motions that are being presented at this time? Commissioner Keys? Yes, I would like to make a new motion to keep the officers that we have until November. And then at our election time in November, we vote on a current board, a new commission board for the year. Sherry Collins?
To make it more simple, you don't have to do anything. You should table that until November. Just don't take any action tonight. We should put it on the agenda in August, no action, and then November you can vote. I thought I'd help.
That. Right, we could do that as well. Commissioner Keys, you have a current motion on the floor. We can continue with your motion, we can withdraw, or we can take the suggestions for Sherry Collins. Let's do what Sherry Collins said, to take suggestions from Sherry Collins. Okay. We'll make sure we get on the agenda for August meeting. If the board then decides to take action at that time, we will, or we will table it to our November meeting. Okay, with that item being met and overwhelmed, we've completed our agenda for this evening. Any further motions? If not, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? This is Commissioner Keys. I second that we adjourn our meeting this evening. I make the motion we adjourn our meeting this evening. So we have a motion to adjourn the meeting this evening. Any seconds? Okay, Commissioner Cinco, I recognize you, and Commissioner Williams as well as seconding the motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor by show of hands, aye. Any opposed? All right, seeing none. Thank you all for your time. We're going to close our meeting. The time is 7:49. We thank you all very much. 7:39 for preparation and making this happen this evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you.